the satanic power that comes through all kinds of worldly music. Very powerful. Satan was the worship leader in heaven before he fell. And so he definitely has lots of influence and power in the entertainment industry. He's known as the God, Prince and Power of the Air, these kind of things. So his music is a big thing for the devil, and he uses it very successfully. It somehow pierces into the soul of people. Music is a huge spiritual force for Christian music or evil music. So the Bible says the Spirit of the Lord inhabits the praises of his people. So when we're doing praise and worship, the Holy Spirit is attracted to that. Angels are attracted to praise and worship. But now when you're doing some devil worshiping and you're singing about killing people and pimping hoes and all that stuff, whatever, you're attracting demons. No doubt. And this is the words of Satan and what Satan wants people to do. So I talked about Stairway to Heaven, the song Stairway to Heaven, how they were inspired. They got involved in black magic, Led Zeppelin, and they even rented a house in Scotland that had been used by Aleister Crowley. You can look these people up if you never heard of him. Aleister Crowley, known as the most wicked man to ever lived. He had this castle in Scotland that he had rented where he had done all these involved rituals that we can't really talk about. I spoke of with animals and with men and women and all kinds of wicked, perverted stuff. And anyway, I mentioned in the book too that supposed to be Barbara Bush's mother was involved in that. So they say, is what you can read about it on the internet. They're supposed to be. She was involved in some of the stuff with Aleister Crowley. That's what they say, and that's what's written. So I don't know. Of course, I wasn't there. That was in the 1920s or 30s or whatever, 1920s. But anyhow, Led Zeppelin read in that castle for the purpose of channeling the spirit of Aleister Crowley. And then they wrote Stairway to Heaven. They said they got it as a divine download. Lots of rock musicians have gotten songs as a divine download, using words they don't even know, vocabulary they don't even know. So many, rock music. And I love music, but it's the unfortunate truth, brothers and sisters. It's the unfortunate truth. Many songs are inspired spiritually to deceive young people, and even the idea, like I say, I like music. I love music, but the whole foundation of rock music is rebellion, a spirit of rebellion. And Satan, of course, is the original rebel, is Satan. So the whole idea of rock music and the culture starting in the 50s was this rebellion against your parents, to shock your parents and all that. And that's one way, the devil gets young people, especially in those days, to be rebellious against their parents, to shock their parents. It's always been that way since the beginning of time, right? But in modern history, in the 1920s, it started with the flappers and all that. Some of you guys who know a little bit of history, women started, as you guys know, who, like my great-grandmother, they couldn't even show their ankle. It would have been a sin for them to show their ankle. And then by the 1920s, like when my grandparents were coming up, women started wearing shorter and shorter skirts, and then they had laws against that at the beach, and then they fought against that, and cutting their hair, bobbing their hair, they used to call it, bobbing their hair, cutting their hair short like a man. That was all scandalous, big stuff in the 1920s in America. And that was being rebellious in those days, right? So that's the problem with the rebellion in our pop culture, because you got to do something more. You got to do something more radical to be rebellious. So you think about all those, I'm sorry, let's tell the truth, all those loser baby boomers, spoiled in America particularly, spoiled, rotten baby boomers, smoking dope and all that, sex, drugs, and rock and roll and all the stuff they did in the 60s. Now, so that's where their kids have to do what? Their grandkids have to be like, well, I got to mutilate my body to get attention. So they took it. You got to do something more extreme to be rebellious. So that's the whole thing, the continuum of Satan's strategy. Let's say it that way. How about that? The continuum of Satan's strategy. It one-upmanship. So that's why we got to where we are. So like what I was saying in the book, the Lord gave me to write. When Elvis came out, 1954 or 55, whatever, Elvis Presley was seen on TV, maybe 56, whatever it was, dancing. They had a fit. The parents had a fit when Elvis was on there dancing around, gyrating around. It was scandalous. And then they could only film him from the waist up and all that. But today, people laugh about that. As a matter of fact, in the 70s, they were laughing about that. Oh, look how silly. Our parents were just a bunch of squares. They were a bunch of uncool prudes when they didn't want Elvis to be seen gyrating around on stage. But now that's nothing. They wish to God we could go back to those days, brothers and sisters, when people left their doors unlocked. You know, and it was drugs were not distributed outside of the poorest neighborhoods in the largest cities in America. There were drugs before only in the large inner city areas. For whatever reason, the government, whatever, they let it loose in the 1960s to go everywhere, coordinated by the alphabet people. So that was their plan. That's part of the plan. Birth control pills, in prayer in school, all the things they did. Television brought a lot of that forward. Making this culture, I'm saying it now, I'm just going with this. First, you can look at it this way, look at in a whole nother level, you can look at it from another angle, look at accents. My grandparents' accent was 100 times stronger than mine. And then my parents was in the middle of that. And then the kids today, they could be from Alabama, but they don't really have much of an accent. And someone from New York who's 20 years old doesn't have the accent of someone from Brooklyn, New York, that was born greatest generation, World War II generation people. Why? Because of radio and television, media. So you could see where we went from local associations with church, family, and then so they brought in, people from different religions, different backgrounds, different cultures. And then through radio and then television and now the internet, they've taken it all the way to global. See, so you can see the progress of losing your culture. So the case of people from the Bible Belt, like where I came from, is Christian culture, where the Bible is a big part of people's lives, the way people talk, the way people live. Back in the day, 100 years ago, people really knew everybody went to Sunday school. Everyone went to church, almost 100%, and everyone knew the Bible. Christian community. That's why people left their doors unlocked and all that. So then you start introducing, like talk about the 1950s. Let's talk about that. They started having, we're really going to go with it, the American Bandstand. What did it do? All the young people watched it. Why? Because they're seeing the latest dance, the latest music, introduction, slowly introducing where we got today. Marilyn Manson, that's already old now. Marilyn Manson having altar calls to give your life to Satan on stage. And that's considered now, that's not even controversial anymore. But it started with, you wear your skirt shorter and you rebel against your parents, introducing of, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, drugs, birth control brings free love, all this stuff. And it just progresses. And then every generation, the next year, they're like, well, we got to have our skirt shorter than what they did last year. Or the boys say, I have to have my hair longer than they did last year. And whatever, they did marijuana. Oh, well, we need some cocaine. Oh, you got cocaine? Oh, well, we need spice or whatever those latest synthetic drugs are, or whatever, fentanyl or whatever. We got to do one up. We got to rebel, be above and beyond. We got to shock our parents. And that is how we got to where we are today. As the old analogy of the frog in the lukewarm water and it slowly boils. He doesn't know it's boiling until it's too late. Kind of like that, brothers and sisters. So the global culture. That's one way we know we're in the last days, because the technology and all that's here for the mark and to control people. The technology is here through AI now and satellites and all that. Internet, everybody's connected in to where they can control people. But on the cultural side, people are acceptance of the mark today. Why? Because, they introduced a credit card, I think it was like 1962. I can't remember. I think it was around 1960 or something like that the credit card was introduced. So before, those old people were like, hey, I got to use cash. I don't want people to know where I'm going and what I'm doing. See, that was the first response. Just like with Elvis. The first response was, this is sexualized dancing that Elvis is doing, and my teenage daughter is liking this, and this is bad. That's the initial reaction of normal people. This is not good. So with credit cards, normal people who had not been conditioned said, hey, they can track you with that thing. You can get into debt, and then they own you, and it gets out of control. You run up debt, and then next thing you know, you're indebted to your debt. They can own you, that kind of, I owe my soul to the company store, as the old song, right? 16 tons. So like that. But now is that people are conditioned to it, and so then they started where you could pay with it. When I first saw that, I was like, there's no way I would do that. And I don't do that. Take your smartphone and pay. It's unsecure. But now I see all the time, young people, they go to the another dumb thing that young people do, they go to the convenience store to buy a soda. They pay the price of a whole bunch of soda for one soda at a convenience store. That's another thing that's really dumb. But people do that. And if you ever go in a convenience store like to buy gas and you go inside, you see people up there, young people buying a soda for $2 or $3, and then they use their smartphone to pay. And it's like just one more step and put it in the back of your hand, and there you go. You got the mark. So you see this conditioning, brothers and sisters. So when you see the rainbow mutilation people, that is a culmination, started back, well, really with the flappers, and then going on to Elvis and all those things. It's a culmination of the movie industry has slowly built that pop culture. They've crafted, the devil has crafted the narrative. And so young people are caught up in that. Like now at the movies, they have a woman is the hero, the superwoman, all the superheroes are women. And then the men are totally incapable of doing anything. They don't care that nobody wants to see the movies. They're doing it because this is part of demoralizing and destroying the idea of fighting back against the man. That's what they want. It's just on so many different levels, brothers and sisters. It's a total psyop at every level. So when you think back about the face diaper, you think of the propaganda they used, the techniques they used, and you look at who obeyed. Especially young people. And I know very elderly people. That's one group. And they're the only ones that probably, I wouldn't, but maybe they're the only ones who can make an argument for themselves. People over 75 or 80, maybe. Not me, but maybe I could see that argument. There was tons and tons of young people. They were one of the biggest groups was people like 18 to 35 who absolutely didn't need to do anything. The last people on earth to do it that needed to do anything, according to what was said, was that group. And they were like the biggest compliant group. That tells you what you need to know. That tells you what you need to know. They think the world, they trust Big Brother. See, they think Big Brother's great. They also, I don't know the percent, I forgot. They think that free speech is not absolute. And they want restrictions on free speech, gun rights, all that. All these young people, brothers and sisters. Like I say, one of the biggest, we can lay the blame also at the church, at these liberal churches, brothers and sisters. If they knew the truth, of course, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. If they knew the real truth, Jesus Christ, and their eyes would be open, they wouldn't be falling for this. And that's